How you doing? How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, Rebecca.
I didn't get to meet you, I don't think, before
No,
actually. So it's
exactly. You met
sort of-
my husband. Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to meet you virtually.
Lovely to meet you too. I know this is the new normal, isn't it? I
It's
real you sort of do meetings and you realize you meet lots of people and it's all just via computers.
yeah, it's so bizarre, isn't it? It's I definitely am looking forward to going back to normal in terms of seeing people in person. I'm not a massive fan of being stuck behind Zoom quizzes for the past year, but it's handy to be able to see
Yeah,
people.
although having said that, I think I've slowly started to fall in love with the Zoom quiz.
Have
I'm gonna
you?
be, I just really like the kind of contact with the community, because there's one Zoom quiz that I've sort of been on throughout all lockdowns,
Oh, nice.
and it's just, yes, that sort of lovely, just checking in. And I think I'm really going to miss that. And even when
Yeah.
it's in people's gardens or something, I think that just Zoom checking in is lovely. And it's such a mix on our group because it's sort of all ages, and people doing lots of different jobs, and some people who are working on their own and quite isolated.
Oh,
So it
wow.
just sort of felt like a lovely way to connect. So I'm going to miss that group, but the other Zooms, yeah.
I was going to say to you actually, I was working front of house when I finished drama school when you were in Strangers on a Train. Uh,
Oh,
so it's
really?
going back a bit.
I think, was it, no, it wasn't that theatre, but one of the theatres up from it, was it, I can't remember the name of it now, but Queen's, where Les Mis is, uh, is, I'm not sure if it's
Yeah.
but that's the theatre I worked at, just before I went to drama school, actually, or before I went to uni, because I did uni and then drama school, and
Ah,
that's where I worked front of house. So every time I'd walk up Shaftesbury Avenue and walk into the theatre, I'd sort of, it,
nice feeling, I
yeah,
bet.
it's a lovely feeling, and I think it's really sort of cool to kind of, all these sort of memories are embedded about, from a time when you're sort of just starting out and you're really, you haven't got a clue and you're really green and you're just learning. And I loved it. I thought
Yeah.
it was awesome. Well, one of my like really strong memories is literally, I think maybe a week, no, it must have been maybe a couple of weeks after leaving drama school. And I was lying face down on my sofa, just screaming, going, "Why have I done this?" Just going, "This is awful. This is just, I'm never going to work. This is terrible." Yeah, it was sort of really dawning on me how big and how scary it felt. And I just didn't, I didn't think, because it's like when you're starting out, you just don't know how things are going to happen. You sometimes don't even know who to turn to ask for advice. And it was just really sort of came crashing down on me. And then and this is actually very sort of indicative for me of how the industry works. Um, uh, is that I think maybe a week later, I got a phone call saying, "Would you go for? We've got an audition for you. Um, they want you to play, it's for a Swedish character." And I'd always been told never say that you have any connection to Sweden, and all of a sudden there was a part where they wanted a Swedish accent. I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I went in for the audition, and that was my first film job. So literally a few weeks after that big, um howl into the sofa, things changed. And not in terms that my career was different forever, but that first thing happened. um that's, yeah, that's my memory of it, like being desperately terrified. And then the film happened, and then I was terrified for other reasons when that had finished. But, it took ages before I got another job, and I got other meetings and stuff. Um but yeah, I
Because
remember
did you go to
it.
Lambda? Am I
I did,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I didn't have the best time at drama school. I'd been to uni and I had an amazing time at uni. And I wonder if there's an element of the fact that at uni you've got, people are applying to a course, you want to work within drama, the industry, film, TV in some way, and but they're all interested in different things. So you've got, editors or writers, or academics, or directors, actors, lighting technicians. I mean, we literally sort of, from the year that I graduated uni, there's everyone's gone on to do such a huge variety of work, from working within government to the charity sector to, yeah, and lots of different jobs uh, within our creative industry as well. Um, Whereas at drama school, it's all very geared at just acting, and I wonder if that made a difference. Um, and for me, anyway, personally, I felt it was. I very much believe that you went to drama school in order to be allowed to make mistakes and really mess up and really embarrass yourself and get it really really wrong. But I found quite quickly at drama school that that wasn't the case. And this is just my personal experience. That if you didn't nail something, if you didn't get it quite right, then I felt quite judged quite early on. So I felt quite uh,
What you might not have been cut out for it almost if you, yeah, if
yeah, or yeah, I think, or I just felt quite. I remember that I just had a tight knot in my stomach for most of my time at drama school. Whereas as soon as I graduated, I was like, so along with feeling desperate and worried that I would never work, I also felt a huge relief, and I felt like, oh, okay, now I can start to work in the way that, um, yeah, I I I want to work. I mean, what you hope is that you have a really sort of a year where you feel really like a family, and you're supported, and you feel free, and you get to play, and I think that's what the experience really should be. And of course, that's it can't always be like that. It just won't always be like that, which is also fine, because you take you and like with every experience, you have to take from it. I really believe this. You have to take what you can from it and learn and make it the best that you can, because every job isn't going to be great, for various reasons. Every period of your life isn't going to be great for various reasons. So you can't. I think it's a good thing to just step back and think, okay, what can I take from this that's going to be useful, and then just ride out the tough bits. Um, but I think, yeah. Also, I think, and I think this with education in general, I feel that there's, well, I don't know if it's changed, and maybe it has actually, because I went a really long time ago. I graduated in, what was it, 2004, so ages ago. That feels like donkeys ago. But I there wasn't very much sort of practical talk about what life would be like afterwards. I think the only thing that I can remember being discussed was, oh, it's hard. But I feel like everybody knows it's hard. Everyone knows it's hard. You don't go. It's definitely one of those industries. You definitely don't go into it going, well, this is going to be a breeze.
yeah.
This is gonna be fine. I mean, because every turn, so you're being told this is really hard. Most people, when they tell their parents that I want to pursue this, they go, "God, can you have a backup plan because it's so hard?" We know it's hard, but I think things like practically, like how to organize your finances, how to work out tax,
Tax returns.
exact tax returns, and how to how to audition properly, how to where to pitch your voice in in a theatre audition, for example, like all these things. I i can't remember there being as much of a focus on that, and I think that's really vital. And definitely, the joy is to delve into work, and as in plays, and delve into character, and different ways to approach character. That's gorgeous and absolutely should be part of the learning, and is. But I think the practical element of when you graduate, and to take away the emphasis on, oh, you're all in competition, it's like I find that incredibly unhelpful, because it sort of encourages behavior in oneself and ourselves and everyone. It's not the best behavior,
No,
really. And I
yeah.
think the truth is that you are always, and again, that's just true now. When you're at your best, everyone else is allowed to be at their best, and that's kind of how it is. And yes, some things work out for others earlier on than for other people. Some people decide to do something else. I think that's totally fine. And there's this sort of also a big myth, and that was sold, and it's not just drama schools, but I think social media, and um, the sort of, we have this expectation that we're supposed to succeed really quickly. I mean, what a load of rubbish. What an absolute load of rubbish. And I say to everyone that I meet who's sort of young and starting out, I say, for most people, any career, but definitely our career, 8 to 10 years of sort of grafting, plugging, doing jobs here, doing jobs there, sometimes doing something for free, doing another job on the side, definitely doing one or two other jobs on the side. 8, 10 years is a pretty reasonable amount of time, um, uh, to to not be to not hit your stride in terms of being constantly working. I think that definitely was the case for me. It took 8, 10 years before I could, and I still know that I'm really lucky. I've got friends who haven't been able to do that, who've never been able to do that, who've stuck with acting. And I've also got friends who decided to do something else because they suddenly went, 8, 10 years, I've given it a good go. I want to do something else. Just because they evolved. And that's really important, I think, to remember that, we're human beings. What we do is not, um, is not what defines us. Everything in our life defines us. And, that comes into like having families, and suddenly, different things become important, different stages of your life. And adapting to whenever you shift is really important. And if that means changes to your to the way you work or approach your work, that's fine. And being creative, you will always be creative. That
Yeah.
doesn't go. Like, whatever you end up doing, you will be creative, because that's that's an instinct, and that's something that you have, and it doesn't leave you.
So obviously, because I think everyone knows that we were sort of first ones into lockdown, last ones to sort of start coming out, and it's really taken a hard hit. Did you kind of find that yourself as well this past year, or
Well, I was really lucky in the sense that a lot of work that I do is in TV and film. So work wise, we managed, which was great. Um, but I was devastated because there were lots of plays, work in theatre that couldn't happen. And also, I was devastated for my friends who do work in theatre solely, or just anyone who's working in theatre. And that's, not only on stage, obviously behind stage. Y- People whose entire careers have been spent in the theatre, suddenly having, no income
yeah,
whatsoever,
it's
having no
costume
idea.
lighting, isn't it? Backstage crew and front of house. It's so
Huge.
many jobs, isn't it? Yeah.
So many jobs. And it is bizarre, whether you sort of, you believe in the arts, um or not. I mean, the figures are hard to deny. That's why I don't understand the new sort of government cuts of arts education. Is just mind-boggling. The proof, the figures are there to prove that this is an industry that brings us enormous amounts of jobs, enormous revenue, and yet they think it's acceptable to sort of shoo it away as if it's not important. It's vital. And we also know that it's vital. Research is, it's researched, it's there, it's proven how important creative subjects are, not only for anyone wanting to work within the arts, which is an enormous industry, but also just for anyone, any job you do, whether you go on to become a mathematician or a scientist or whatever it might be. The creative subjects are vital for our development as human beings and help us in so many ways. So yeah, I am baffled. I'm
Yeah.
baffled. I think it's buffoonery. I am.
It's nothing new, is it, though, which is really sad. I think
Yeah,
always felt like arts are sort of pushed aside as not an essential, not a real
yeah.
subject, not a, which is disappointing.
Hugely
Yeah.
disappointing. Yeah, usually you would have thought now, when it's sort of more, when people are aware of how important it actually is, not not just fun. After lockdown, the first time I went back to work, thing that really struck me was seeing how many people were working, from carpenters, builders, painters, um, uh, costume designers, seamstresses, um, lighting technicians, caterers, drivers, production. I mean, it, thousands of people. And that was on one set that I was on. It
Yeah.
was incredible. And from them, that meant that all of their families were having an income. All of that meant that that it wasn't just the people that were on set. It was just a ripple effect out into the community. That meant that that family could go and buy from their local shop. But I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. um, and yeah.
Did you get halted for any amount of time with the lockdown, or
Yes,
you
yeah, we
did?
did. Yes. Yeah, so I think how long was it? The first lockdown, and then it was a good few months after that before everything kicked back up. But
Yeah.
I've forgotten time now. Time's just sort of
No, it's
disappeared.
all sort of merged into one as well. Well, in terms of your the jobs you've done, what would you have you had a kind of favorite role or favorite job?
Yeah, I mean, so there's so many jobs, and I love, I mean, I love all jobs, part either because I've had a moment in them that's been joyous, so I've learned something really great from them, and but so often, like this industry, it's lovely because it's a people industry, and people are fascinating and brilliant and gorgeous, and collaborations are my favorite thing in the world. So to be part of something is always magic. But definitely a very expensive poison, Lucy Preble's play. Um, that was incredibly special. Partly because I've just not worked in theatre so much, um, and it was. It was at the Old Vic, which has this history, and again, you talk, of the students, that's the sort of theatre you go to when you're a student, going, oh wow, look at these boards, and to sort of be there was magic, and the group uh, that I got to work with were just so incredible, and I think because the storyline as well, obviously, Marina Litvinenko and um, her her battle to get a public inquiry into the death of her husband Alexander Litvinenko, which is um, seems like old news, but it isn't. It's so relevant to today's politics, and it's so important. And what that woman did for us, to spend time in her company and to spend time with that story and really get to understand it, felt really important, just beyond the job. And yeah, so that sticks out for me a lot. Um, and then always when I get to work with mates, I love it. I get really excited. Uh, Morgan Lloyd Malcolm has become a great buddy, and so yeah, every time anything that she does, I'm always thrilled to work with her. So funnily enough, that's two like theatre experiences.
Yeah, I was going
Um,
to say, do you prefer kind of theatre work to TV, or do you have a preference? Or
no, no, I don't. But I don't know if it's because so I always thought I would only do theatre. I never thought I'd do TV and film. They were just really foreign concepts to me when I was younger. But I sort of fell into doing more TV and more film. Um, and I don't know if it's the fact that I've done less theatre, but that rhythm of theatre, it is because it's really full on. I find it really full on.
yeah,
You don't really have your days. You don't really have. I mean, you don't have your nights. Personally, I mean, so the job really takes over, and it takes the energy. I mean, there's nothing like a rehearsal room. Nothing like it for theatre. Those weeks that you get to spend sort of breaking something down and working things out, and it's just magic. You can't, that's just incredible. And then also being on stage in a play that you love and you care about is great, and I think really important to sort of flex your muscles and remember the craft, if you will. But it's really draining and full on. So
yeah,
I find that for me, anyway, I can only now do plays that I absolutely adore, and I know that I can bring an energy to all the time. So I'm always in huge admiration of the actors that I know who do plays all the time. I just they have a stamina that is well beyond any Olympic champion, because it really is extraordinary, and it's hard work, and it's amazing, and they go and they do it, and they do it with gusto and with love over and over. And I'm in huge awe of that, and I don't think I have the stamina to do that all the time. I can do it for short bursts, um but not all the time. However, I do love it. I do, when I
yeah.
do it, I adore it. But I love TV and film too, and that's something that surprisingly just sort of evolved. But I'm hugely grateful for it, and I love being on sets. That I love, again, it's the collaboration, it's the big sort of family, it's working out problems together. Love it, love it. Think it's just the most amazing thing. I get really giddy. I go to work now and I'm like, oh, it's so exciting. It's just, and I find that amazing. I don't know many other jobs where I would feel that after almost 20 years of doing it.
So what would you give yourself advice as a younger actor, or two younger actors sort of starting out? Is there any kind of advice you look back and be able to
Yeah,
give?
what I said earlier about um, this idea that if somehow you haven't made it within the first couple of years of leaving drama school, or indeed if you didn't go to drama school, you know, by the time, I don't know, you're 21, that's just rubbish. If you really want to do this, stick with it. Stick with it. Find out what's going on. Local theatres, national theatres. Find out about casting it. You know, stick with it and kind of. And normally, yeah, it takes 8 to 10 years before it kind of um, gets rolling regularly, or you have a proper idea of what your career might look like. And also the fact is that one job can change everything. You know,
It can change so quickly, can't it? Yeah, you just come out of the blue.
remember that you know, when you're feeling really sort of down, you never know who's thinking about you. You never know what's around the corner. And just to sort of look after yourself in those sort of um, in that downtime, to really sort of take care of you, whatever that means for you. But just to really do that, and to um, I mean, obviously, you know, being being you know, what do they say, like, know your lines, turn up on time, and don't be a dick. That's basically the job. That's it. And I think it's really true. And I think, you know, the being kind to people is really important. And that also means being kind to yourself. You know, that being kind to others doesn't mean you're not kind to you. You have to be kind to you. um yeah, I think that's sort of the, you know, the main thing, I would say. And also to we're sometimes sort of told to be a blank canvas, and I don't know, the more I think about it, I'm not sure I agree with that. I think we can't run away from who we are. And I think sometimes, definitely for me when I was starting out, I would sort of tie myself in knots to try and be whatever an audition required. And what ended up coming out was quite blank and sort of stilted. And actually make clear decisions that are based on your own instincts and bring that. And if it doesn't work, that's fine, but it's you. And at the end of the day, you can't run away from the fact that it's you. And that's what makes it unique and brilliant. And to not be afraid of that, I think that's something I would have told myself when I was younger. Just, you know, be you. And if you don't know who you are, then figure out who you are, and or be open to the fact that that's also you at that moment. I haven't got a clue who I am, but these are my choices, these are my instincts. And I think that's really important.
There's that brilliant video. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a clip that's often circulated by Bryan Cranston, saying like, all you can do is go in the room and be yourself, because there's only one of you. So if they're not looking for you,
Yeah,
that's not your fault. That's, you can only bring that. And that's, I remember
yeah,
watching that once and thinking it's so true actually, because like you say, you I think definitely you're told at drama school about being that blank canvas, and obviously part of being an actor is becoming other people that aren't yourself, but you know, that whole element of competition as well, actually you can't really be in competition in some ways, because nobody else is going to offer what you do, so it's more just what they're looking for.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. That's why I'm like, take competition out. It's a load of rubbish. And yes, I mean, of course, like, people go, oh, but some people are working, some people aren't. Yes, but that's not the competition thing. You know, like, you cannot compare yourself to anyone else. Be the best version you can be, and follow that. And you know that it's vital, um because otherwise you're, you know, it's, I mean, it's just, it's a ridiculous thing to try and not be you, or to try and sort of squash that somehow. Then you're doing an utter disservice, because any character that you play, you're the vessel it's coming through. That's why, you know, when you play a main, you know, or I'm trying to think of like characters. When you play Hamlet, it's going to be very different to when I play Hamlet, but it will still be Hamlet. It will, both times will absolutely be Hamlet. So I think yeah, I think that's, he's very wise, old Cranston, isn't he?